The man of the hour is sitting alongside Caroline Wilson and myself tonight in Ross, Lyon. Welcome, Caro. Welcome, Ross.
I think it's good to be here, Ed.
Now, I said last week you might get a phone call. It's still early to get a phone call from Carlton because they've got one match to go. But, Caro, I'm going to open the floor to you to ask the questions of Ross Lyon that we all want to hear.
Well, Ross, you've put it on the table that you would entertain a coaching position again. We're pretty sure it's not going to be the Collingwood Football Club, and we're certain now that there will be an opening at the Carlton Football Club. Have you yet received any form of contact, you or someone from your camp, from the Carlton Football Club?
Well, someone said to me once, it's your press conference, Ross. So what I'll say is David Teague's on record as publicly saying he's struggling. So the first thing is I think all of us really need to respect that and aim not to injure David Teague. So that's the first thing. Carlton have been strong with Mark Ledudice. They're going through the process and they'll review and then make a decision. And I believe that's the way they're going. Me personally, I have shifted a little bit. That did happen with Lee and it had me thinking. And I think, look, it didn't end super well at Fremantle, although I felt I coached really well in the last year. We were, fifth or sixth on the ladder, 7 wins, 5 losses, and then we fell away. So I looked at some of that vision. I looked about 800. So why would you go back into it? But it did stimulate my thinking. And so if an opportunity arose, and I say that with the greatest respect at the Carlton, and they rang me, I would entertain it. But I also understand, that I haven't got tickets on myself. It's a red-hot field. Alistair Clarkson's available. And what I'd say to you, Caroline, is you were spot on with Alistair at Hawthorn the whole way. And I was like, but I was like, spot on, right? And as part of that, you were saying Alistair Clarkson will coach I'll paraphrase you, but the Carlton Football Club. Me, with all the intelligence that I have within the marketplace I have, I think that they'll speak to Alistair at the right time, which is next week. And I think you haven't been wrong yet, and I still don't think you're wrong.
And if Alistair says no, and there is a chance that he will, there is a small chance that he'll decide to have that year off that he has spoken about. If Alistair says no, would you take the call?
Certainly take the call and consider it. And I am aware there's a lot of Carlton, not a lot, there's enough Carlton people, famous Carlton people, premiership players, coaches, ex-champions, that are advocating in a sense because they've worked with me or know me personally and understand their club and is that those sort of connections. So I do know that's occurring as well. And that it makes you feel good. If Lee Matthews says you should coach again, and then you read his article, well, there's no one else in the AFL that's coached 2 different clubs and taken the grand finals. You can't fluke that. So we all do need some affirmation, and it probably just lit the fuse a little bit. And
obviously Stephen Silvani is a great friend of yours, probably not a great friend of Carlton's at the moment, but he, I'm sure, is advocating for you. I'm told even the past president, Stephen Kernahan.
John Nichols came in this week as well.
And
John was very strong.
And Sam McClure has been strong on this show all year, that he sees you as a very, very hot choice. I would say it's not really a red-hot field. It's a red-hot field of 2. Yeah. I think it's Clarkson or Lyon, Ed. And I'd like to know from you how you knew that Ross was going to receive a call last week. And
what do you always say when people ask you about your sources?
Well, it has to have come from a board member, Ed.
No, it doesn't matter where it's come from. Right? I get around and talk to a lot of people. Can I ask you a question? Has Collingwood spoken to you?
Informally, and it's not even really breaking confidence. I don't think Graham Wright would mind. Graham reached out to a friend to get my number. He could get it anywhere, but and I was aware that I just said respectfully, I wouldn't entertain that for a variety of reasons.
Okay. What are those reasons?
Well, it's hard to articulate it all. Sometimes it's just chemistry.
How do you feel? I think you're saying that you think you're maybe second choice behind Alistair Clarkson.
Yeah, I've said
how
if
do you
I was
feel
the
about
Carlton
that?
board and I could get Alistair Clarkson, I don't think you could go past that. Based on if the measure's premiership cups, well, there is no decision, is there? If you've got other metrics and it's runner-up and it's 15 points or your group, but sometimes there's chemistry. You can get a headhunter ring you and you go and meet and you go for the job, and if you haven't got that chemistry, and that happens pretty quick, well, it doesn't happen, or it shouldn't happen.
So just from I've got a slight interest in
if Ed was
Collingwood.
president of Collingwood, I mean, it'd be a different story.
Okay.
So is it partly because you think there's a bit of unrest
I
at
think there's
Collingwood?
instability. I think it's a father-sons. I think I think Nathan's a bit unlucky.
Well, you've been
I've
strong
been very
on Nathan.
and I don't know Nathan. Nathan's not a friend. So just from the outside, and I just think ultimately, I think successful clubs, whether I think North Melbourne, where they've got alignment where they're at and where they're going. And I think if you see misalignment, it's a red flag.
Some people, last one on this, would say that Carlton have not handled this very well, that they've put a coach under a huge amount of pressure for 11 weeks and a football boss in Brad Lloyd and people in the assistant coaching team, recruiting, etc. Does that worry you about Carlton?
No, look, I can see why people say that. Sitting back, they weren't travelling well and then the review was instigated. So let's not lose that. There was a real struggle and inconsistencies, and I was on the back of the Sydney, lost the West Coast, and West Coast are struggling interstate, which we'll cover later. So that's when it was instigated. So, but like all of us, when you sign up, it's a hot seat. And already I'm seeing, gee, it's a maelstrom of news and it's getting a life of its own. And then you see the whispering campaigns and different agendas being run with different journos and people feeding them. I'm like, well, maybe Wisel Property Group's the place to stay.
What about Footy Classified?
And Footy Classified, yeah, look, it's been, to be honest, to get to the other side and understand and see the heavy lifting that goes on and get a deeper insight, I think either way it's been a big win for me.
Caro, that's the thing though, in clubs when you're making these decisions, no perfect solution. Media always wants a perfect solution. That's not a knock, that's just what everyone wants in life. But there's no doubt that pressure makes diamonds and you have to crack an egg to make an omelette. All those old sayings, they actually come true in these situations. To get to the result, sometimes in football, it's more a contact sport off the ground than it is on the field. So let's have a look at what's happened today with Luke Sayers, who assumed the role today, the 31st president of the Carlton Football Club. Well done to Mark Lejudice, by the way. I thought he did a sensational job in rebuilding the club off the field. You can't sometimes get it to all work on the field, but when you're in the president's position, the one thing you've got to do is make sure the money is right, and they are now in position financially to step forward, Carlton. Today, it was said by Luke Sayers, this process is now reaching its final stages. I will assure you we will not be making any public comment until we have direct communication with you, our members. This will include providing you with summarised findings of the review that I know members and a deep and justified interest in. So he has come out and said that there will be an executive summary that will be given out to the members, which I think is a fair enough thing to do.
There has been a suggestion that Jeff Walsh, who helped run that review, might even be tapped on the shoulder to take over the running of the football department of that football club for the next 2 years. I'm told that Jeff is assuring people that is not going to happen. The one thing that caught my ear in the last couple of days was Eddie Betts's comments about one of his teammates. Can we just have a listen to that before we leave Carlton?
Yes, for Sam, he's been thrown around this year in a few different spots, and I guess it's with him. He was a little bit frustrated this year that he wanted to cement a spot in the side, but that wasn't happening because he was at half back in the midfield, came down forward to try a small forward role, and it just wasn't clicking.
Just really surprised to hear Eddie Betts make that comment about Sam Petreski-Seton and his frustrations, given Eddie's relationship with David Teague.